Fans are left speculating about Sean Hannity's health after they've noticed some strange things on air.
You've been watching Sean Hannity for years. You know his voice. You know his face. You know when something is off. And lately, something has been very, very off. We all saw it. The puffy face. The raspy voice that just wouldn't quit. The way he seemed almost uncomfortable in his own skin. And here's the thing about that. You don't get to be a face of a network for that many decades without people noticing when you look different. When you sound different. And look, we're not talking about a cold. We're not talking about a bad night's sleep. You already know what I'm about to say. The official story came out quick as could be. Pinched nerve. That's what they told us. A pinched nerve in his back. That's what's causing all this. And I want to be careful here because I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV either. But a pinched nerve in your back doesn't usually make your face puff up like that. It doesn't usually make your voice go raspy for weeks on end. Something doesn't add up. And you know what, you and me, we've seen this movie before. We've seen it with other public figures. We've seen it with people who suddenly look different, sound different, and then there's this big rush to explain it away. Oh, it's nothing. Oh, he's fine. Oh, just a minor thing. And then, well, you know how that story ends sometimes. Actually, let me rephrase that. You don't always know how it ends because they make sure you don't. They make sure the story just kind of fades away. Everyone stops asking questions. Everyone moves on to the next shiny object. And the person who was looking sick, who was sounding sick, well, they just sort of disappear. Or they come back different. And nobody talks about it. So here's the question I kept asking myself when I saw those clips of Sean Hannity. Why is nobody pressing harder on this? Why is the mainstream media, the same mainstream media that will spend 3 weeks analyzing a celebrity's outfit choice, suddenly so quiet about a major figure's health decline? And the answer, I think, is the same answer to a lot of things we see these days. They don't want you to know. They don't want you asking questions. They want you to accept the pinched nerve story and move on with your day. But you and me, we don't move on that easy. We can't. Not anymore. See, I've been doing this long enough to know that when someone in power suddenly looks unwell, there's always more to the story. Always. And the fact that they rushed out this explanation so fast, so clean, so packaged, that actually makes me more suspicious, not less. Because if it really was just a pinched nerve, you know what they'd do. They'd show you the MRI. They'd show you the doctor's note. They'd have Hannity himself come on air and joke about it. But they didn't do that. They gave you a sentence, a single sentence, and then they closed the book. That's not how innocent people act. That's not how transparent people act. That's how people with something to hide act. And I need you to stay with me here because this gets deeper. This isn't just about one man's health. This is about a pattern that we've all seen developing over the last several years. Remember when certain figures just vanished from public view for a while? Remember when certain voices suddenly changed or certain faces looked different? And then there was this big narrative about how everything was fine. You remember. I know you remember because we all saw it. We all felt it. And we all knew deep down that the story they were telling us wasn't the whole story. Not even close. So let's talk about what we actually saw. And I mean really saw. Those clips that have been circulating online. The ones where Hannity's face looks swollen. Where his eyes look heavy. Where his voice has this strain to it that wasn't there before. That's not a pinched nerve in your back. That's something else. Something systemic. Something that affects your whole body. Now, I'm not going to diagnose him. That's not my place. But I am going to tell you what my eyes see. And my eyes see a man who is struggling. A man who is trying to keep it together on camera while something is clearly wrong. And that's hard to watch. It really is. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's where the breadcrumb trail starts to lead somewhere we might not want to go. Because when you start looking at the broader trends, when you start connecting dots that maybe aren't supposed to be connected, you see something. You see that this isn't isolated. This is happening to people on the right. People who speak truth. People who challenge the narrative. People who are inconvenient to the powers that be. And suddenly, mysteriously, they start having health issues. They start looking different. They start sounding different. And then there's always some tidy little explanation. A pinched nerve, a routine procedure, a bad reaction to medication. And we're supposed to just nod our heads and accept it. And look, I know some people will say I'm reaching. I know some people will say I'm seeing things that aren't there. But ask yourself this. Have you ever seen someone have a pinched nerve in their back and look like they gained 20 pounds in their face overnight? Because I haven't. Not once. And I've known plenty of people with back problems. I've had back problems myself. It never changed my face. It never changed my voice. It never made me look like a different person entirely. So why would Sean Hannity be any different? Why would his pinched nerve be the one that affects everything except his back? That doesn't make sense. Now, I want to take a moment here, and I want to speak to you directly, quietly, personally, because this part matters. This part is the part that keeps me up at night. And I'm not saying this for drama. I'm saying this because I genuinely believe it. There are forces in this world that don't want people like Sean Hannity on the air. There are forces that don't want the truth being told. And there are forces that will go to extreme lengths to silence the messengers. I don't know exactly what's happening to him. I don't have proof, but I have eyes, and I have a gut. And my gut is telling me that something is very, very wrong. And it's not just a pinched nerve. And the reason I'm telling you this, the reason I'm laying this all out, is because I think you already know it. I think you've been feeling it too. Every time you see him on screen, something feels off. Every time he speaks, something feels strained. And then they give you this clean little story and expect you to swallow it. And you're not swallowing it. We're not swallowing it. We're not swallowing it. Because we've seen this play out before. We've seen it with other figures. We've seen it with people who dared to speak the truth. And we've seen what happens to them. They get sick. They get tired. They get quiet. And then they're gone. But here's the thing though. I'm not ready to accept that. I'm not ready to accept that someone who has been a voice for so many of us is just going to fade away because of a pinched nerve. I'm not ready to accept that explanation. And neither should you. Because when you accept the explanation, you're accepting the system. And the system has shown us, time and time again, that it cannot be trusted. It cannot be trusted to tell us the truth. It cannot be trusted to protect the people who speak for us. And it certainly cannot be trusted when it comes to the health of the people who challenge its narrative. Now, I want to talk about something that a lot of people are missing. And this is the part that connects everything together. This is the part that makes you go, oh, now I see it. Because there's a trend here, a broader trend. And it has to do with our institutions, our government, our media, our entire system of trust. We've watched over the last 6 years as public trust has just collapsed. Collapsed because of COVID. Collapsed because of all the cover-ups. Collapsed because of Epstein. Collapsed because every time we turn around, there's another lie, another half-truth. Another story that doesn't add up. And eventually, you just stop believing, you stop trusting, and you start looking for the real story on your own. But that comes with a cost. A cost that I see playing out in our families, in our communities, in our everyday conversations. Because now, when something happens, we don't trust the official story. And sometimes that's the right call. But sometimes it leads us to some pretty crazy places. Sometimes we take a completely normal, benign event, and we turn it into something sinister. And I'm not saying that's what's happening here. Actually, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying this is not benign. This is not normal. This is something real. And I'm also saying that our distrust, our justified distrust, has led us to a point where we question everything. And that's not always a bad thing, but it does make life complicated. It does make it hard to know what's real and what's not. And this is something that people like J.D. Vance, who's eyeing that 2028 run, have to figure out. They have to figure out how to rebuild our trust. How to make us believe in the institutions again. How to take them over, kick out all the radicals who've been running them into the ground, and actually make them work for the American people again. It's a big job, a massive job. And it starts with honesty, with transparency, with telling us the truth even when the truth is ugly, even when it makes them look bad. Because that's the only way we're going to trust again. That's the only way we're going to believe again. And right now, the truth about Sean Hannity's health is something they're not giving us. And that's a problem. But before I go any further with that, before I get too deep into the political side of this, I want to go back to what we're actually seeing. Because there was a clip from his show, and it showed something that a lot of people have been talking about. Something that really caught my attention. And I want you to think about what you would do if you were in his position. If you were on camera, in front of millions of people, and you were feeling the way he looks like he's feeling. What would you do? Would you go on air? Would you pretend everything's fine? Or would you take some time off and deal with whatever's really going on? And the answer that I keep coming back to is, if it was really just a pinched nerve, you'd probably just take some time off. You'd probably say, hey, I need a few days. I need a few weeks. I need to get this sorted out. Nobody would hold it against you. Nobody would judge you. In fact, people would support you. They'd pray for you. They'd wish you well. So why isn't that happening? Why is he pushing through? Why is he going on air looking and sounding the way he does? That doesn't make sense to me. Not if the official story is true. Not if it's really just a back issue. Now, the other side of this, and this is where we get into the part that a lot of people don't want to talk about, is what if the official story isn't true? What if it's something else? Something they don't want us to know. Something that would be damaging if it came out. And I'm not saying I know what that something is. I'm just saying, based on everything I've seen, based on everything we've all seen over the years, the pattern suggests that there's more here. There's always more. And the fact that they rushed out this explanation, this pinched nerve story, that tells me they're desperate. They're trying to get ahead of the narrative. They're trying to shut down the questions before they even start. And that right there, that's a red flag. So I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think. Because you're the ones who are watching. You're the ones who are paying attention. You're the ones who are seeing the same things I'm seeing. And I just know that you've got thoughts about this. You've got questions. You've got suspicions. You've got things you've noticed that maybe I missed. And I want to hear all of it. I want to hear what you think is really going on with Sean Hannity, because this matters. This isn't just gossip. This isn't just celebrity news. This is about someone who has been a voice for us, someone who has fought for us. And now, when he's clearly in distress, they want us to look away. They want us to accept the official story and move on. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to move on. We're going to keep asking questions. We're going to keep pushing for the truth. And look, I understand. I really do. There's a part of me that wants to just believe the pinched nerve story. It's easier that way. It's cleaner. It doesn't require me to think about the darker possibilities. It doesn't require me to look at the world in a way that makes me uncomfortable. But I can't do that. I can't look away from the truth, and neither can you. Because once you start seeing the pattern, you can't unsee it. Once you start noticing these things, you can't pretend they're not there. And once you start asking questions, you can't stop. You can't go back to the way things were. You can't just trust them again. Not after everything they've shown us. So here's my final thought. Here's what I need you to take away from this. Sean Hannity is not okay. We can all see that. We all know that. And the explanation they've given us doesn't hold up. Doesn't hold up at all. And that's not me being dramatic. That's not me trying to stir things up. That's just me telling you what I see. What we all see. And the fact that they think we'll just accept it, that they think we'll just nod our heads and move on, that's insulting. It's disrespectful. It's exactly the kind of thing that got us to this place of distrust in the first place. So I'm going to keep watching. I'm going to keep paying attention. And I'm going to keep asking questions. Because someone has to. And if not us, then who? If not now, then when? You and me, we've got to be the ones who hold these people accountable. We've got to be the ones who don't look away. We've got to be the ones who fight for the truth. And I know that's not easy. I know it's exhausting. I know it feels like we're fighting an uphill battle every single day. But we can't give up. We can't stop. Not now. Not when the truth is right there in front of us, staring us in the face, begging to be seen. You know, just like I know that something isn't right here. Something bigger than a pinched nerve. Something that they don't want us to see. And I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you to stay with me on this. Stay vigilant, stay curious, stay angry if you have to. Because anger, righteous anger, that's what drives change. That's what forces the truth out into the open. And we need the truth. We always need the truth, especially now. So what do you think? Really think? Is Sean Hannity hiding something? Is there more to this story than what they're telling us? Or am I just seeing things that aren't there? Tell me in the comments. Tell me what you see, because I want to know. I need to know. And I think you need to say it. You need to put it out there. You need to be part of this conversation, because this conversation, this is how we find the truth. This is how we hold them accountable. This is how we win. So don't stay quiet. Don't stay on the sidelines. Speak up, speak out, and let's figure this thing out together.